Well, I've been doing this work for like 20-something years, something now, and so I have a lot of relationships with organizations and facilities. Um, but usually what happens is I have a host organization. So we're going to be working in Boston, right? And so our host organization is going to be Writers Without Margins, who's actually doing some work in there already. So they're the infrastructure to help us facilitate some of this. And then when we go to Minnesota, we'll have Minnesota Prison Writing Project. And so they'll be assisting us as well. And they helped us get into those facilities, through, we went out there and met and talked. And so we, able to get there like that. Birmingham was a little bit different. I had a friend of mine that used to work there at the facility, and she knew what I was doing. And it just was the perfect storm. I was down there, and it's sort of like, because it wasn't really on the list of things to do, but it became our pilot program. And so we sat down there for two months, Devin and I, and we installed a recording studio, and we created this whole creative space where the kids could work, between poems and music. And it was probably one of the most, I don't know how Devin feels about it, but I thought it was one of the most interesting experiences, humbling experiences. I know he felt that way because we talked about it. I don't want to speak for him, though. Yeah, so we have infrastructure. Everywhere we go, we're going to have someone that's sort of like, we're partnering with or something like that. I mean, so I'm drawing on like 15, 16, 18 years plus experience working inside the cars, these places to do this, right? So, drawing upon all of the grants and the fellowships I've gotten and being able to sort of, so you use all that, yep. Yes.
Do you work with youth facilities, detention centers, and women detention centers as well?
Yeah, we work wherever we can. We work wherever we can get in. We work with the women, and the boys and the girls at the youth detention center down in the youth and down in Birmingham. Now, when we go to Massachusetts, we're going to be working in an all male unit. It's the Peace Unit. So it's 18 to 22-year-olds, and it's called the Peace Unit. So it's a special unit. And when we go to DOC in Faribault, we're going to work with men and women. Yep. And so in the back of everything, we're sort of slated for Danbury, the federal institution. But that would be last. Right now. In the rotation, but people are trying to get in the rotation too, so it's becoming a little bit interesting. Yeah. I know, right? Yeah, I mean, and so the thing with Alabama was I couldn't pass up the opportunity given the numbers, the alarming rates in Alabama's prison system. It is it's probably it's like a world. It's a world crisis, man. I don't think you even realize the level of trouble that goes on in DOC in Alabama. It's troubling, and so to be able to impact those kids at that early age through creativity means a lot. But I think more so, what's happening here is like when we talk about like the idea of the value of the arts. And what does that actually mean inside? What are you actually doing? A lot of times we as educators, I know I work at a university. I understand outcomes and numbers and data and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But sometimes, we have to find ways to sort of measure those in these interesting ways. But I think for anybody who actually goes down in one of those spaces and then you look at those individuals, those students who come into that space, who may be problematic within their units, even on the outside, they be problematic. They become a unit. They become a team in there, and they actually analyze, they critique, they encourage. We've seen it all, right, D? We've seen it all right there, and for me, I think that's part of the whole thing as well. As you're trying to help someone, reimagine what they put it like this. I was doing we was doing a workshop with a young woman. Her name was Kyla. I can say it now. She's out. Um, and they kept writing the same thing over about, a lot of, they come from these places called the bubble, man, and it's like these interesting little pockets in the community that's economically deprived. They live in a bubble. That's what they call themselves. They're from the bubble. Each community, from wherever they go, they say the bubble, right? The bubble. I'm telling you. And so I asked the lady. So I was like, "Can you give me something like? Can you imagine something beautiful, man? Like, can you take something in all that nastiness and that you have to go through every day as a kid to grow up, and give me something beautiful?" And so the girl raised her hand, and she said, "But what if you don't know no beautiful? You know what I mean? What you supposed to do with that?" But we gave her a writing exercise. Um, she actually created one of the most amazing pieces that we actually produced down there, and it became one of the flagships of like what they do to sort of like show off their space when the people come in. I mean, you've had all kinds of people, government officials and state officials, and come through their space, and when they hear that from that one person, they give her a standing ovation. And I think that sums it all up. It gives you like a sense of pride that you can complete something. You know what I mean? If you just know the narrative of what she talked about, it doesn't speak of anything beautiful at all. It's one of the hardest things I've actually heard, but it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful piece. Maybe I'll share it with you one day somewhere. You can go on radicalreversal.com, and it's up there. It's called "Ain't No Love in the Streets."
I'm actually wondering what happened to the work product. From the people who are participating, what happened to that work product? So we can find all of those things on.
You can find some of those things on radicalreversal.com, and we're putting them up now. We actually have started that process. So we actually digitizing that, putting poems and music, and then we have a YouTube channel where you can hear some of the work on the Radical Reversal as well. So we're actually cataloging that now. That's the second part of it. I think, we didn't realize like we were doing all this. It's like, it becomes a thing now, and so we have to really, bring attention to what we're doing. So we got a site up, and it's rolling, and so that's what we're doing. So you can go there and listen to some of the stuff from time to time, and be able to check it out, and get progress on installations, upcoming installations, things like that. Yeah. Yes.
Comment, question. Thinking about systems designed to do damage, and you as a person who got caught up in the system that was designed to do damage, and what you did with it, and taking us all the way to this moment. I just wanted to acknowledge all of you as artists, and what taking that thing that caused damage and turning it into something beauty. And so I was just a little bit of curious to know the creative process. You start with the words. How do you integrate these pieces? How do they evolve?
We find each other. We kind of find each other. I mean, three of us are actually part of a larger project, a larger project called Heroes of Gang Leaders. And so we're very familiar with each other on the stage. So that's the thing too. And Devin and I, we wanted to do another thing, just basically with a social justice slant. So the bigger project is a poetry-based thing too as well. But we want to do something totally different. And by me being, system impacted, and the stuff that I was doing, me and Devin and I talked, and we came up with Radical Reversal, and we actually got a Creative Capital grant. We applied for it. So this is our project, what you just heard. This is our application to the Creative Capital grant. Not one real MF. This is it. And we actually said, this is what we want to do. And so this is how the genesis of. But for us, it was like it goes both ways. It can start with the music or the words. We don't differentiate. When we were doing this project, I would send them just a blank slate of poems, or, words or whatever. Or he might send me some music and I put something to it, and then we begin from there. And then but one of the things we definitely believe in the complexity of sound, right? We'd rather do, I mean, in terms of like when you talking about poetry and music and what does that mean to the average person, I think we don't want to be like what you think you're going to hear. I mean, I'm kind of serious. Yes.